I am Nathalie, and for the MBAX, I am in charge of recruiting, admissions, and also marketing as well. I think this is a journey that started even before I joined the team, around 2 years or so ago, when particularly from the executive MBA team at the University of St.Gallen, we started to realize that there are different needs for leaders of the future, and in terms of executive education and what the world will need in terms of executive education, there might be gaps that need to be filled. There might be things that we need to consider that maybe the current traditional executive MBA is not ready to take on, and maybe we need to redefine what an executive MBA is. And it started with that question. So redefining an executive MBA, what would that mean? What would that imply? What kind of skills, what kind of knowledge, what kind of mindsets are required to really rethink this from the start, while at the same time making sure that the traditional executive MBAs stay competitive and have good quality. So the idea started there, and then it became very obvious that we needed a partner. The University of St.Gallen is quite well known for the quality of its business education, the quality of executive education. I think we couldn't get better in Switzerland in terms of what the University of St.Gallen offers. The answer lies somewhere else. What can we look at beyond what the traditional way of teaching leadership and what business is like? And then there is when this awakening moment came, and it's like the integration of technology. I mean, there is a lot of buzzwords, keywords going around there about technologies, AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and the students actually from the executive MBA programs were asking, can we get more competence in terms of data analytics? And we realized it's just beyond just teaching that. It's just beyond just opening a course on data analytics or opening a course on artificial intelligence. It was about how can we integrate the knowledge of technology into what leadership is, and also into what management is. How can we equip managers? How can we equip leaders with the tools they need and with the understanding they need in order to ask the right questions? And when we reached the conclusion that it was just beyond teaching a course and we needed to redefine and design the program from scratch as an integration of leadership and technology, there was just one obvious partner in Switzerland, and that was ETH Zurich. The Alpine metaphor actually came a bit late in the process of designing the curriculum. It was more of a realization that it was there from the start rather than an intent to design it as an Alpine Journey. We realized that while we were trying to rethink or redefine an executive MBA curriculum, we used to think about reaching peaks, being successful. I mean, when is the moment where the student feels successful or has this overview, big picture, expanding horizons moment that every executive MBA student tends to expect. And then we realized that actually what we really cared, and the reason why we even enterprised this whole journey, was to create impact that goes beyond the individual. And the impact does not happen at the peak. If you look at mountaineering metaphors, and us being Swiss, we are very exposed to those. We know that the real impact happens when you come back down, when you are back in the valleys, when you take on the learnings from that journey. Sometimes you might not even reach the peak, but that doesn't mean that you cannot come back down and create impact. And that we realized that our curriculum was a little bit made that way, living up onto that metaphor. We were taking students into journeys that went beyond just them being successful as individuals, but actually making sure that they had impact in their teams, in their organizations, and that meant that sometimes, at some point during the program, they might not even feel successful, or they might not have this moment of, Eureka, I have reached a peak. We are integrating a lot of knowledge, and when you integrate, that creates some complexity, and at some point we question our curriculum might be a bit too complex, but it's not the case. It's just the journey to the peak that sometimes you might not reach. Sometimes you might have to decide when not to go for the peak and when to come back down. And what really mattered to us was coming back down. And when we realized that, then we had also the realization that it's natural to us. We are Swiss universities. We've been surrounded by this from the start. We know this. This is actually part of our DNA. The first integration of technology and leadership probably happened when trying to conquer the Alps. And if you see how much the Swiss people have developed systems and technologies and tools to make sure that they live in such a beautiful country surrounded by such an unstable kind of scenery, this is the first example of what we actually mean with our program, and not necessarily these crazy new technologies. Of course, we're going to teach those, but in reality, it's about how can we make sure that we use our knowledge, our skills, our tools to navigate the unstable landscapes around us. Switzerland being the best example and conquering the Alps being the best example. And our curriculum reflects that. And that's how we say, okay, that's it. That's our curriculum. It's a change in altitude to a large extent. We want them to deliver impact. I think that's an impact is a very complex word, even for ourselves. It's not one we can define as in a one simple way. But ideally, it means that after they have gone through the program, something might have changed in themselves, in the teams, and ideally also in the world surrounding them, that it's better because of their contribution, and it's better because of the journey they just went through. What's really important for us is the journey, that they take on the learnings from the journey and not necessarily just a toolbox. Honestly, there is a lot of toolbox available out there, and there's many different ways you can access and reach out to those toolbox. It's about what to do with those tools, and having gone through a journey where you have the opportunity to test how able are you to use those tools at all. What are the skills that you need to work on in order to make sure that you use them for the better? And also at the same time is sometimes when you realize that you're probably not the best person to use these tools, but someone else should do it for you. And you should enable all other people to do that. And that's what we want to deliver. We just don't want them to leave with a toolbox that it's going to solve every problem, but with the knowledge that they have weaknesses, they have potential to improve. The world is a journey of learning, unlearning, and relearning, and this will never end even after MBAX. But as long as I've had that realization through this program, I know this is not going to abandon me later on. So in the end, we want them to live with a journey, not just with a set of tools. We have this metaphor where we say that the essential courses that we teach are like the gear that's going to help them go through the peak and go through the journey. The essentials are pretty much the leadership, management, and technology courses that, of course, this is an executive MBA degree you need to go for and you need to study and you need to know in order to be granted the degree. But even there, we insist from our faculty that they do not teach just past frameworks or current frameworks, but we also push our faculty to think about, these are the tools of today, how could the tools of tomorrow look like? Teach those. And this is what our students can expect from the MBAX essential courses, beyond just normal leadership, management, and technology knowledge, is that the faculty will go a little bit beyond. Some might say speculate, but it's just go through this exercise of this is how the toolbox looks today. How could it look like in a couple of years, many years down the road? And once they are equipped with that, then we expect them to go through a path of integration of knowledge of leadership, technology, sustainability, and many other important topics for getting ready for the future to the extent we could expect to be. When the program was designed, it was designed with 21st century leaders in mind. And 21st century leaders need skills, a certain skill set that integrates not only the traditional ways of doing leadership, but also a willingness to question the status quo, and also skills in terms of technologies and embracing the speed at which technology is developing, which is unprecedented. And also some people who are willing to understand that the future is uncertain to a large extent, and are willing to accept that but also equip themselves to navigate that. That means that can actually come they could come from different perspectives, and they could come from different fields as well. So it's not necessarily technology managers that want to learn business education, because the traditional executive MBA could also do that for them. It's not leaders that would like to understand more technology, because actually there's a lot of great technology programs that could just equip them with those skills. It's about people who want to develop a mindset of integrating technology and leadership. That could be technology managers, that could be current leaders. Some will have weaknesses in terms of leadership knowledge, some will have weaknesses in terms of technology knowledge. What we want is that integration to happen, and people to realize that that integration is necessary. We cannot afford to treat these two fields as siloed anymore. So this is why we say it's not necessarily a program for technology leaders or for just business leaders who want to learn technology. It's a program for any leader that understand that the integration of technology and leadership skills is necessary to navigate the uncertainty of the future. They are driven people, and they are people who respect and understand the traditions that have shaped these institutions and that have made these institutions what they are, and understand how these traditional ways of doing things contribute to society and continue to contribute to society, but have this heightened sense of responsibility that goes beyond themselves, the teams or the universities and the institutions, and want to make sure that this also projects at a larger scope. So very purposeful individuals. I'm not saying that the rest of the institution is not, but in this particular case is this hunger to a certain extent to make sure that whatever is working for us also should be working for society. Maybe we have a story to share, maybe we have something to learn from others, and we have this thirst, this hunger to do that. And everybody who is involved in this program, I think that's the trait that connects them, is a thirst for purpose, is this willingness to contribute beyond the walls of the institution, beyond the walls of Switzerland, is understanding in what a privileged position we are because we are working for these institutions that already provide us with tools, resources, knowledge and mindsets that allow us to make strong contributions, how privileged we are to live in this country, a country of diversity, a country of beautiful nature, a country where debate is tolerated, a country where ideas are welcome, and understanding that just that privilege is not enough to us. We need to share that. We need to see how, from this privileged position, can we make a stronger contribution and take responsibility for the world. We're very diverse, so different ages, different nationalities. So it's not because we're working on executive education that we all at the executive student age level. So we have from the very young staff until people who have been working for the university for many years. We thrive on that diversity because I think that's how we're going to understand what do we have that could be appealing to the world. And I think in the end, I can just put it in a nutshell, the people who work for this program believe that Switzerland should not stay neutral anymore. And we believe that Switzerland, this plus sign of the flag, means that we actually can also be a plus sign for the world and make a positive impact. Or at least we want to give it a go. We want to try it.